Hey, good morning. My name is Dr. Robertson. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Elementary Education here at Warsaw Community Schools, and I'm going to be reading you a book today called The Invisible Boy. The Invisible Boy is written by Trudy Ludwig, and it's illustrated by Patrice Barton. And as I read this today, I want you guys to really take a look at the illustrations. I think the author does a good job of using the illustrations to help paint the story well. Can you see Brian, the invisible boy? Even Mrs. Carlotti has trouble noticing him in her classroom. She's too busy dealing with Nathan and Sophie. Nathan has problems with what Mrs. Carlotti calls volume control. He uses his outside voice, inside, too much. Sophie whines and complains when she doesn't get her way. Nathan and Sophie take up a lot of space. Brian doesn't. When the bell rings for recess, Micah and JT take turns choosing kids for their kickball teams. The best players get picked first, then the best friends of the best players, then the friends of the best friends. Only Brian is left, still waiting and hoping. JT glances in Brian's direction and just as quickly looks away. We've got enough players for each team, he tells the others. Let's play ball. In the cafeteria, Madison and her friends talk about her birthday party. The rope swing over the pool is awesome, says JT. Yeah, so was the water slide, adds Fiona. That was the best pool party ever. I'm so glad you guys had fun, says Madison. Everybody did except Brian. He wasn't invited. At choosing time, while the other kids play board games and read, Brian sits at his table doing what he loves to do best. He draws fire-breathing dragons scaling tall buildings, and greedy pirates digging for treasure, space aliens locked in intergalactic battles, and superheroes with the power to make friends wherever they go. On Monday morning, Mrs. Carlotti introduces Justin, a new student, to the class. Brian smiles shyly at him. Some of the other kids sneak looks at Justin, trying to figure out if he's cool enough to be their friend. They haven't quite made up their minds yet. At lunch, Madison and JT watch Justin eat with chopsticks. What's that? Asks Madison as she points at Justin's food. It's bulgogi. Bul what? Bulgogi. It's Korean barbecued beef. My grandma made it for me. It's really good. Do you want to try some? JT responds, there's no way I'd eat bulgogi. All the kids laugh, all of them, that is, except Brian. He sits there wondering which is worse, being laughed at or feeling invisible. The next day, when Justin goes to his cubby to put away his backpack, he notices a piece of paper with his name on it. There's a note that says, Justin, I thought the bulgogi looked good. Brian. At morning recess, Brian finds a piece of chalk on the ground and starts drawing away. You're Brian, right? Says Justin. Yeah, thanks for the note. Hey, Justin, Emilio calls out from the tetherball court. You're up next. Sorry, I gotta go, says Justin. By the way, that's a really cool drawing, he adds before he takes off. Back in class, Mrs. Carlotti asked the kids to team up in 2s or 3s for a special project. The kids scurry around the room to pair off. Brian heads towards Justin. I'm already with Justin, says Emilio. Find someone else. Brian looks at the floor, wishing he could draw a hole right there to swallow him up. Justin responds, hey, Mrs. Carlotti said we could have up to 3 people in our group. We're only 2. Come on, Emilio. Let him work with us. Okay, I guess. Mrs. Carlotti gives the class directions for the project. Your assignment is to work together to write a story about what you see in that photograph. Use your imagination and have fun. Whoa, cool, says Emilio. What kind of people do you think live in houses like that? I don't know, but I bet Brian could draw them to go with our story, says Justin. Brian smiles as he takes out his lucky pen. Do you notice how Brian is starting to look different? The crooked story we made up on the spot. You can see the story that the boys made up there. At lunchtime again, and it's Brian's least favorite part of the day. Another 20 long minutes of kids talking and laughing with everyone else but him. Brian, he hears someone shout, "Hey, Brian, over here." Brian turns and sees Justin waving him over. Emilio nods at Brian and he makes room for him at the table. Maybe, just maybe, Brian is not so invisible after all. All right, and that's The Invisible Boy. Hopefully you noticed that at the beginning of the book, Brian was drawn in black and white, and throughout this story, as he made friends with Justin and Emilio, he started to fill in with more color. And I think this story has a really good lesson for us, that we should treat everyone else with love and respect and friendship, try to make friends with maybe people who don't have friends, and make sure that we notice that nobody in our classroom should be invisible. So thanks for letting me read to you today. I hope you have a great day.